Hey everybody, Tim with Tacky Fly Fishing here for another Fly Tie Friday. This week we're tying one of my favorite bugs as of recent history. A good friend of mine and ours at Tacky invented this fly. His name's Brian Eldredge. He is like a professor of linguistics anthropology and a phenomenal guide. I worked with him for a long time out at Falcons Ledge here in Utah. He also is one of the owners of Utah Fly Guides as well. And frankly, just an all-around good guy. If I haven't put enough pitch for Brian here, I'll throw that last one out there as well. Anyway, this is called the Hellion. It's just an awesome pattern. It's kind of beefy, and I like that a lot. He ties it on a curved shank hook. I'll be honest, I've never actually watched him tie one of these. I've just fished them, and they fish great. So I kind of tie my own, what I assume is how he ties it, version of it. So Brian, forgive me if this is a far way off, but I think we're pretty close. You can use whatever thread you'd like. I always like to tie these with a tungsten bead because I typically like them to get down really far and quick. This is a size 10 curved shank hook, and yeah, you load the thread onto the hook and definitely bring the thread around the back a little ways. Now again, I'm confident that he uses some specific materials that I'm not going to for this, and this one's a little unconventional, especially for this type of fly, but I actually use a gray CDC feather for this. I just kind of bunch it up and use it as the tail. I just want kind of a bushy tail at the back, and this kind of fits the bill for me. So this is what I use. Again, that might not be, if you see an official recipe for this, that might not be exactly what it is, but you just kind of want the stump out too. You don't need a whole lot extra laying out there. And then I'll tie up just a little bit to add some more thickness to the fly, some more girth to the fly, because this really should be a meaty fly. Okay. So the next step down, I'll go back to the back of the fly here. And you can use all sorts of different stuff, but I'll use midge diamond braid. I think his classic one is done in kind of a peacock braid color. I really like this claret color, which is a kind of a wine color. You can use any color you want with them, and they fish like crazy. I honestly don't know that color matters tremendously with this specific pattern, just because it's the right size, it's the right sort of shape, that it just kind of works. So I'll tie this in at the back and make sure that I also apply it all the way up the hook so that I'm not kind of biasing one area to a different body shape than another. Once we get basically back close to the bead, for this I'm about that distance, maybe an additional bead length behind, and then I simply wrap this material up the entire body of that hook, side by side, not letting any space exist in between there. Okay. Tie that off up at the top. Okay, now Brian always has two goose biots coming off the top there in kind of prince-like fashion. I think he typically does white. I like these in a gray color here, but I mean either way, again, I would not worry a whole lot about this being a successful pattern. And you just kind of want them popping off the top here. Make sure those are nicely anchored down. Okay. Now, this is kind of the interesting part, and I'm sure he has a different material that he likes to use, but I love these feathers off the rump of a pheasant. And underneath those feathers you can find on pretty much every single one of them this little immature feather. I'm not even sure exactly what we would call it, but it serves a purpose beautifully on this fly. Basically like a really short soft hackle. Can literally split it down the vein, and at this point then you can use it to anchor onto this fly and then tie it back, and I'll show you what that looks like here. Okay. So once you get that anchored onto the fly, you clip off that excess piece that you initially used to anchor it, and just wrap this. I apologize for some little kiddos in the back if you can hear that. Just wrap this around the bead a couple of times, and then make sure to get around that piece of that feather and lock it down there. Now what you'll have at this point is basically a collar, and that's good, but that's not exactly what we want to finish it with. And so we want it pulled back a little bit over the rest of the fly, so it's kind of like a mane almost that's existing over the rest of the fly. So to do that, we'll take a little bit of peacock dubbing, just a very small amount here, to exist right between the bead and those feathers. Okay. You can see how that kind of pulls the whole thing back over the body to some degree. And once that's been complete, you can whip finish. And there we go. There is the Hellion. Awesome, awesome little fly. Super, super simple to tie, but just catches fish, just slays fish left and right, especially in higher water, which is what we're facing right now. You can get deep fast, and just absolutely, fish can't resist them. So tie them in lots of colors. Send us some pictures of what you guys like to use. I'm sure that this fly will be around for quite a while. It fishes really, really well. So again, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Definitely subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and we'll plan on seeing you guys next week.